The following is an encore performance of Show Me the Money, so you may hear some dated references. We'll be back with a new show for you next week. In the meantime, enjoy.
For the next hour, you'll be leaving the Show Me state and entering the Show Me the Money state. So stop what you're doing, grab a pen, and get ready to learn, people. Because you're tuned to the Ozarks' #1 show about your money. Randy Floyd, founder of Floyd Financial Group, will be your guide for straight talk about living the life you deserve in retirement. Prepare to be empowered. Now, here's your Show Me the Money host, Randy Floyd.
Good morning and welcome to Show Me the Money with Randy and Jake Floyd, the show that gives you the straight talk and honest answers you need to help you reach your wealth management and retirement goals through smart investing and careful planning. My name is Jeff Shade, and as always, I'm just here to ask the questions, but of course, the words of wisdom and solid advice come from Randy and Jake Floyd at Floyd Financial Group. I'll start with you, Randy. How you doing today?
Doing very well, Jeff. How about you?
I am doing fantastic now that we're here on the radio with you folks. And Jake, how's this Saturday treating you?
Doing well too, Jeff. Thanks for asking.
Always glad to hear that. Hope our listeners here in the greater Springfield area are doing well today. We appreciate you joining us each and every Saturday morning for Show Me the Money. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the worst retirement mistakes to avoid at all costs. We'll also be talking about the purpose of money, but as always, I want to start off with current events. So Randy and Jake, take it away. I understand earnings reports. We still have some news from that.
Yeah, so, last week we had Target, we had some others out there. Retail continues to be relatively soft, even though prices are up, So just inflation alone should be driving earnings for a lot of these retail companies, where simply because the prices are higher, they're making that much more money. So the fact that they're kind of breaking even or so with expectations and then lowering their guidance, meaning their next quarter, their next year, what they tell the public and say, hey, we think we're going to do X number of dollars of business the next quarter, next year. Those numbers are continually getting re-rated down. A lot of the investment world is kind of living in la-la land right now, I think. After Target lowered their guidance, the stock went up at the open the next day. And I think there's just a lot of hope out there that we're going to have this soft landing, but there's not a whole lot of evidence that's going to be the case.
So what you're saying, if I understand you, Jake, is that the earnings really are mediocre at best. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for the economy? What does this mean for the market?
Jeff, I think it means that, until we see some sort of turnaround here in the direction, what you don't want to do in investing is go against the trend, especially and unless there is something to turn that trend around. We had some other reports last week that were about personal income versus personal spending. Well, income is down and spending is up. So it doesn't sound like they've solved the inflation problem to me.
No.
And we have no end in sight of raising rates. And if the prices continue to go up, they're going to be forced to continue to raise rates.
So you mean families are going to have to raise their debt ceiling?
Something like that, yeah.
They're going to get a headache from their head to knock it against that debt ceiling.
I wonder if the kids get a vote on that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, and I think case in point, that's probably not going to happen, meaning the debt ceiling for individuals is going to be lowered, most likely, not raised.
Right.
And we saw Goldman Sachs kind of virtually abandon their personal banking, personal loan arm of their business, Marcus. And a lot of people don't even know that, the constant mail that stacks up in your mailbox from a company called Marcus is actually Goldman Sachs.
Didn't know that.
And, if you're like me, I get probably 60% of my mail or more is personal loan solicitations.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Where it's like, hey, you're pre-qualified for 10,000, 50,000, 100,000,
Oh, yeah.
70,000.
Yeah.
And, the ones that are from Marcus, that's Goldman Sachs, and they all but said they're going to basically shift away from that and, push harder on the investment banking side of the business. So you're going to see more and more of that as rates get tighter and income gets tighter. These banks are going to shift to protect themselves from the public overspending and not being able to pay them back. And so what will happen is, you pay off a credit card, and one of these times when you pay it off, they're like, oh, your new limit is now $2,000 instead of $10,000 where it was. Or they may close your account altogether. And I think the Marcus thing is kind of the very beginning of that. And we're going to start to see these credit card companies are going to start to pull back the reins on risk as they see this recession coming in. Another piece of news we got last week was from the Dallas Fed, and their expectations on the economic outlook were much worse than expected. And in the notes, the Fed said, yeah, we're definitely going to have a recession in the second half. Well, nobody's really been saying it quite like that. And so I do agree with that. I don't see how there's any way that we don't. And especially as long as the Fed has their foot on the pedal of raising rates. And I don't see with the data how they're going to stop. It may be a significantly harder landing than a lot of people have expected to this point. So again, all this comes back to what you really need to do is have a plan that works no matter what type of financial weather we have. If it's good times, good. We want to capture the up. But when times are tough, we want to make sure we have protections in place so that once we retire, we're not going to have to go back to work because we took too much risk with money. And when times get tough, we need to make sure we're not spending too deep into our money. That way, we stay retired once we're retired.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jake. And I think with most things in life, you've really got to have a plan. There are a few things you can wing it with, but if you've got a plan, at least you have some sort of roadmap as to where you're going to go, and you're going to take the appropriate steps to get there. We're talking with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group, and we're talking about current events as we do in the first segment of our show pretty much every week. A couple of things popped out at me, Jake, in the last couple minutes that you talked about that, one of which was the junk mail and the solicitations for loans. And I got to tell you, I go to the mailbox every day, pick up my mail, and I get those too. You're pre-approved for $50,000. I've got a special table on the inside of my garage right by the garage door, and that's where all of those go. And really only about 20% of the mail actually makes it into the house. So that is interesting that they're trying to get me to take out loans when it really is the worst thing that anybody could do. And the other thing that piqued my interest, income down, spending up, which is really a great recipe for disaster. What is the mindset of people, do you think, that are spending more when their income is down? Are they doing it just because they can, because they want things, or because they need things and just don't have the money?
I think that it's all the above. I do think that if you look at the average consumer, okay, what does that mean even, right?
Right.
Because that's what the big banks talk about. Well, the average consumer is in really good shape and has lots of savings. Well, are we talking about the average, or are we talking about the median consumer?
Right.
So the average means we're going to take into account Bill Gates and Elon Musk, which is going to skew the savings aspect of things, and not literally take those two into account, but we're going to take into account people that have lots and lots of money, lots and lots of savings. But for every one of those, there's 100 people that don't have any savings. And so the average and the median are two different things, meaning if I go pull a random person off the streets, chances are he's much closer to the end of the line than the average person would be to the end of the line, meaning people that are average are going to have a little bit more in savings. But I think there's lots of people, and we see this in the data, there's lots of people that are struggling. The most recent number I saw is it's like almost 30% of Americans are behind on their utility bills.
Wow.
That's a humongous number.
That's
when you
huge.
really think about it.
Yeah.
30% are behind. And, a number roughly half that are, being threatened to be shut off and that kind of thing.
Right.
Well, if we're already to that point and inflation's still running and we really haven't put the hurt on anybody, we really haven't seen much job loss yet. The general Wall Street consensus at the beginning of the year, Wall Street goes out and all the analysts say, hey, I think the market's going to go to 4,800 this year, meaning the S&P 500. And some people say it's going to go to 3,400. They set up all these averages. So the highest one was 4,800 and the lowest one was 3,400 for the year-end target. Usually when people are underestimating things is another recipe for disaster, like you said earlier. 3,400 is only 15% under where we're at now. I mean, if we have to keep taking interest rates up, if we have another 5 or 6 interest rate raises to quell inflation, and we take unemployment up, 1.5%, I would suggest we could go considerably lower than 3,400. Now, I'm not saying that's a virtual certainty. I'm just saying for nobody anywhere on Wall Street to be even considering a lower number than 3,400 is a little bit shocking. And typically, if everybody is leaning one way in the market, you really want to be leaning the other way.
Jake, in light of all the things that you've talked about, which hasn't been the greatest of news, I'm going to fantasize here for a little bit, and I'm going to appoint you President of the United States. It's President Floyd. What would President Floyd do to begin to turn all of this around?
So I would say that had I been President Floyd for the last 3 years, I would say let's not print money like there's no tomorrow, and let's not wait too long to start raising rates. If I had to be president from this exact moment, I would probably raise rates 1% or 1.5% right now and stop with this quarter point kicking the can down the road 8 and 10 months at a time thing. Let's get it over with, and let's get on the road to recovery. It'll be painful in the short term, but long term we can get back on track with our lives. Everybody's just waiting for this thing to fall, and there's a lot of people hoping it won't fall, and it's been pretty detrimental on the retail investor who's been trying to buy all these dips. Every time the market goes down, they're just buying more and buying more, which is typically what you want to do, except when the Fed has their thumb on the scale the other direction. And so I think I would just go ahead and get it over with interest rates. Let us get on the road to recovery and kind of try to put all this behind us. As far as the average person, what you need to have is a plan for these downturns, and say just watching your 401k go down 30% is not a plan.
No.
That's you just letting it happen to you. So what is the strategy for you to make sure with the highest degree of certainty possible that you're going to be okay on the other side of this? And I think there's a lot of people that are just, their money's invested and they don't really have a plan. They don't really know that it's possible to have more certainty than they have now. And I'm not saying that anything is 100% certain, but there are ways to guard against major drawdowns in a portfolio. And what we want to do is set things up in a way where if things are good, we're going to get the lion's share of the gain, and when things are bad, we're going to mitigate the lion's share of the loss. That's the gold standard. That's what we want to do, and that's the type of plans we try to put in place here. And we'll talk a little bit later in the show about the purpose of money. There's a lot to be considered there, but I really think just having a plan, regardless of that plan, is better than no plan.
And to that end, I've often said, don't let life happen to you. Make life happen for you. And it applies to your finances as well, too. Don't let your finances or don't let your retirement just happen to you. Make it happen for you. And how do you do that? As Jake said, it is a financial plan. If you don't have a financial plan, or maybe you've got a financial plan that maybe you're not sure about, you want a second opinion on that, I highly encourage you to get in touch with Randy and Jake at Floyd Financial Group. You can do that quite simply by calling 417-889-7233 and asking for your no-cost, no-obligation, no-judgment financial plan or financial review. 417-889-7233. Again, I want to underscore this doesn't cost you a dime, no obligation. Most importantly, there is no judgment. Do it today. You can also request your plan online and find out more about the firm by going out to the website floydfinancialgroup.com. That's floydfinancialgroup.com. You're listening to Show Me the Money with Randy and Jake. We'll take a quick break. Be right back with more of our show right here on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk.
Science says what goes up must come down. So what does that mean for your retirement? And are you prepared for the ups and downs to your retirement income? In retirement, you must prepare for two large threats, taxes and inflation. At Floyd Financial Group, we help our clients by creating retirement plans for an uncertain world. Remember, the United States has seen its inflation rate fluctuate dramatically over the last 40 years. Top federal income tax rates held steady at 70% for 3 decades, dipped below 30% in 1990, and are now around 40%. The stock market has also experienced ups and downs over the years, and if you haven't reevaluated your goals for the future, your risk tolerance level, or your plans to minimize taxes, it's probably a good time for us to talk. At Floyd Financial Group, we're here to help answer your questions and discuss your retirement plans. And to help you get on the right path, we'll start with a no-obligation complimentary conversation. To schedule yours, call 417-889-7233 or go online to floydfinancialgroup.com. Advisor services offered through Floyd Financial Group, LLC.
Ready for a heapin' helping of some more real talk? Thought so. Here's another serving of Show Me the Money with your server, Randy Floyd.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy and Jake. You're listening to Show Me the Money, and in this segment, we're going to be talking about the worst or some of the worst retirement mistakes that you can make.
And you know, Randy, retirement mistakes abound. I mean, whether it's due to bad advice, improper planning, or just misconceptions about what retirement is truly for. So in this segment, we're going to be covering some of the most prominent or some of the worst retirement mistakes to avoid at all costs. And the first one, Randy, is something that some people do, and that's sort of treating your 401k like a credit card.
Yeah, you know, there's generally loan provisions built into any 401k program, and they vary a little bit because the employer gets to write some of the rules and regs as to how much you can borrow, how long you get to pay it back, and that sort of thing. But I would just say this, you know, I mean, yes, once in a while, you know, if you're needing a loan for something, I mean, there's several reasons that we see people do it today. You know, one is we had a lady that was just about to retire, and she had a pension plan where she's able to put a little bit more money in to buy up her pension to another level. And we looked and did the math, and yeah, hey, it made sense to pay the extra. So what we did was, you're going to love this, we went out and we took a loan against her husband's 401k to get the cash to buy it up. So, but you know, we looked at the math and we did it all, and he's going to be able to pay the loan back, and he pays himself interest. So I would just say this, you need to really think long and hard, though, about taking that money out, because you do have to pay it back, and you have to pay it back with interest. And generally speaking, you know, the term is not 30 years. You know, the term is something like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years is what those really tend to be. But again, for emergencies, you know, if you get yourself in a situation maybe where, you know, I have a situation where I had a younger lady that had some health issues, and she had some medical bills and things like that she had to pay. And so we did take a 401k loan to get high interest credit card debt off, and she's paying her own self-interest back.
And I also think, too, Randy, that, you know, some people may not be aware of the difference, but there's a big difference between taking a loan on your 401k and taking the money out of your 401k.
Amen.
And there are, you know, it's something that we know a lot about, and we talk about all the time here, but the average person may not. If you take money out of that 401k, not as a loan, but as a withdrawal, you're going to owe taxes, and you're going to owe a penalty if you're under 59.5. So while we're saying don't treat it like a credit card, if you are going to take money out, please take a loan versus taking it out, taking the hit, taking the 10% penalty. And, you know, this is all stuff that we do give advice on when we sit down for a consultation as well.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that you can take loans against a 401k. Now, you talk about emergencies, Randy. I rolled by the car dealership the other day, and I saw a brand new 2023 Dodge Ram pickup, the quad cab, and it had everything on it, and I just loved that car. And
Sounds like an emergency to me.
It was an emergency in my mind. I was shocked because, you know, again, I'm not living in the real world. I'm living, you know, to when you could buy a 74 Ford F-100 pickup truck, but I was surprised that it was $65,000. And maybe that was cheap, but I'm telling you right now, that emergency quickly turned to reality real quick when I walked away. And I thought, well, I'll go check out the Jeeps, not necessarily the Jeep trucks, but even the regular Jeeps. They were $60,000 plus too. So don't confuse a want with a need when it comes to your 401k. And most of all, do not treat it like a credit card. It really is for emergency purposes only. We're talking about retirement mistakes to avoid at all cost. And the next one here is not planning for health complications. They're going to rear their ugly head, aren't they?
Yeah, you know, you just never know what can happen. I think we've talked about on the show before, and my wife wouldn't mind me sharing this with you. You know, back in 2006, at 40-something years of age, my wife came down with throat cancer. You know, and we asked the doc, we said, hey, you know, what do you think caused this? You know, because my wife, you know, she's never smoked or drank or anything a day in her life, you know. Right. And she said, the doc said, well, you know, most times you would have to be a man 70 that smoked and drank your whole life to get this.
Yeah.
Is what they. So they said, well, what do you chalk it up to? And all he could say was bad luck. So here's what I would say. You know, we just don't know what tomorrow holds for any of us. And we have a few clients around here, some people that in their 30s 30s have had heart attacks and can't work and are waiting to get on disability and, that sort of thing. So, you never know, what can happen. And we generally tell people you need to have somewhere between 3 and 6 months in just easy access cash somewhere so that if things come up and you can't work or you've got a big medical bill, you can handle those things and not have to really go through the stress and the strain of trying to figure it out another way.
And I think God had a better plan for Lisa because she's with us today and she's enlightening everybody that she comes in contact with. But again, that is a good plan right there, is maybe you're going to stay healthy, but having a backup plan for things if they go south can help prevent unnecessary pain and stress. And you're recommending 3 to 6 months. Is that right, Randy?
Right, and I feel better about 6 months. And a lot of people say, well, that cash has been trash, because you can't make any money on it. It's been sitting in there doing nothing, getting dusty. Mm-hmm. And while that's true to a degree, now that has changed quite a bit with Jerome Powell raising interest rates as he has, for about the last 11 months. March a year ago, the Fed funds rate was basically 0. Now it's 4.75. So, we're starting to see the banks come through with some, 2 and 3% money market accounts and some 3.5 and 3.9% CDs and things of that nature. So, cash can now be, not so much trash. You can actually earn a little bit of money along the way. So, by all means, have some emergency cash out there. Make it a goal to build that up. Pay yourself first. Put a little bit of money over there in a savings account or a money market account so that when those things come along, number one, you'll live a healthier life if you're less stressed, right?
Right.
I don't know if you heard, Jeff, about the woman that died here. Let's see, what was it? Maybe about a week or 10 days ago. She was the oldest living woman, 123
I did read
years old.
Yeah.
And it said that they credited her long life to this. Are you ready? She was very wealthy. She was a socialite. She never, ever had to work.
Wow.
Not ever. Not one day in her life.
Wow.
And she didn't start smoking until late in life, they said.
What is that saying? If you want to live long, wait until late in life and then start smoking. I would say don't smoke at all. Really?
Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was really quite interesting. But they said, she didn't have the stress of a normal person living through life because, for a lot of people, financial stress is one of the big stressors in life.
Yeah, that can really be a killer. So 3 to 6 months there, if you can do it. I would suggest as well, too, that if you do have some debt, do it in this order. Pay off that debt first. But then while you're paying off the debt, make sure you put at least $1,000 into emergency fund. Then keep chipping away at that, but pay off that debt. And then when you have done that, take those debt payments and put them into that emergency fund until you get 3 to 6 months. You're going to be a lot more stress-free if you do that. Next one is passing up free money in the form of an employer match, Randy.
Yeah, that's true, Jeff. I mean, sometimes people come in and they say, well, how much should I be putting into my 401k? And we always say, well, put in there whatever they're going to match because free money is always good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other thing that happens there when you get that money in there from your employer, markets are going to go up and down and sideways and things. But if you continue to contribute and get that match, you're not only buying, if stocks are down, you're buying more shares at a lower cost. And also you're doing the same thing with the free money that you're getting from your employer. So we always say, let's take whatever they'll give up to the match. And then, of course, we always have the tax implication that we have to think about because let's think about this just for a minute. Talking about free money. Any money I don't spend on taxes, that's kind of like free money, right?
Oh, yeah. It is. It really is.
Because when do you ever get it back once you give it to the government?
Yeah, never.
NEVER. That's right.
I am still waiting for that. It's just not going to happen. We're talking about retirement stakes that you should avoid at all costs with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group. Next one is thinking that retirement planning is just for your finances.
Yeah, Jeff, this is a big one. This is one that we talk about all the time. And case in point would be my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law was an orthodontist for almost 50 years. And when he retired, and he, there's the old saying, about, and forgive me, all the dental professionals that are out there listening to this. Mm-hmm. He went to school for a long time, almost 11 years, he told me, and then he was down on the mouth for life, But anyway.
That's a good one. I like it.
So I knew Taylor for a long time, and when Taylor, retired, it was like he kind of lost his identity, and he was really kind of aimless for quite some time. And then actually he developed Alzheimer's, and over a few years did pass away. But I think the thing to take away from here is the fact that he hadn't considered what he was going to do once he hung up the braces.
That's a very good point, though. I think a lot of people really identify themselves with what they do for a living, and they really forget who they really are and really what the purpose of their life is all about. Maybe his was dental work, but I'm sure that there were a lot of other things. There were a lot of other people who depended on him.
Yeah, I think that, too, that, we often ask people here during our first meeting in our discovery phase, what do you see your retirement looking like? What are you planning to do when you get there and you know that you don't have to go punch the time clock or report to work or get online or get on the Zoom meeting when you can put the mouse jiggler on for life,
Yeah. Mouse
Jiggle
jiggler.
that mouse.
And not have to, I don't know, but for our listeners that don't know what a mouse jiggler is, it's one of the latest inventions for people that work from home that don't want to work. They have this little device that jiggles the mouse. So if your employer is monitoring your activity, they don't know that you're not at work.
None of our listeners would have any idea what that is, I'm sure.
I was trying to
Yeah,
think
not
Because
about
a mouse.
all of our listeners are hardworking Americans who love this
Yeah,
country. They
a
would
mouse.
never consider using a mouse jiggler.
Yeah, I'm glad I explained that.
I would have never dreamed that. I thought maybe it was a fishing lure or something like that. Hey, I'm going to use the mouse jiggler and catch
Kinda sounds like one.
catching bass with this mouse jiggler out here, but that's not what it is. So thinking that retirement planning is just for your finances, also consider your lifestyle and your daily routine. We're going to do one more before we take a break, gentlemen, here. The next one is one that I think a lot of people fall into a trap with, and that's using your retirement money to pay for your kids' college education.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. We see people come through here sometimes that still have a lot of student debt. Maybe it's their debt. Maybe it's some of their kids' student debt that's out there that they picked up. And, sometimes, when kids graduate from college and mom and dad, are doing well and they see that the child has all this debt, like you said, they will go ahead and reach in and spend, 100% taxable dollars to go ahead and pay off those loans and things. So a couple things I would say. Number one, if you want to help your kids pay for college, of course, that's up to you and that's perfectly fine. However, boy, I'll tell you have to think long and hard about going into an IRA or a 401k to do that because, again, whatever you pull all that out of there is 100% taxable. The other thing I might suggest is let's use that money over your lifetime. Let's grow it, and whatever you don't spend, pass it to them. Then they can pay off their debt over a 10-year period or something where the taxes can be greatly mitigated.
We're talking about retirement mistakes to avoid at all costs. We've talked about treating your 401k like a credit card. That's a no-no. Not planning for health complications. We've talked about using retirement money to pay for your kids' college education, passing up free money in the form of an employer match, and thinking retirement planning is just for your finances. Another retirement mistake that you can make is not having a plan. But we can rectify that right now because we're offering a complimentary, no-cost, no-obligation, no-judgment financial plan with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group. How do you get it? Well, it's really quite simple. Call 417-889-7233. Get in and sit down with Randy and Jake. Have a private consultation. Discuss your wants, your needs, your goals, your visions for retirement, and let them put you on a plan that will not only allow you to survive retirement, but also thrive in retirement. Get retired, stay retired with a plan from Floyd Financial Group. Again, 417-889-7233. Again, not going to cost you a dime, and there is no obligation. You can also request your plan online at floydfinancialgroup.com. It's floydfinancialgroup.com. We're glad you could join us on this fine Saturday morning. We'll take a quick break on Show Me the Money. We'll be right back with more of our show after this here on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk. If the fuel gauge in your car were broken, would you know how far you could drive before running out of gas? Well, not knowing how long your money will last in retirement is a lot like driving a car with a broken fuel gauge. You just don't know how far you can go. Randy and Jake Floyd at Floyd Financial Group want you to know that there's no need to live with the stress of uncertainty. At Floyd Financial Group, they have secure and principal protected solutions that can guarantee lifetime income, protect you from market losses, and even provide for long-term care should you need it. If you want to learn how to create a more secure retirement, provide for your loved ones, and potentially reduce your tax burden, schedule your complimentary no-obligation financial review by calling 417-889-7233 or visit FloydFinancialGroup.com. Take control of your financial future by requesting your complimentary no-obligation retirement review. You can also do it online at FloydFinancialGroup.com. That's FloydFinancialGroup.com. Advisory services offered through Floyd Financial Group, LLC.
Hi, this is Randy Floyd from Floyd Financial Group. At Floyd Financial Group, we pursue excellence in the delivery of wealth and comprehensive retirement planning. We help you develop a plan to achieve specific outcomes so that you can use your life savings to make an impact you desire. We speak your language so you can clearly understand all the components of your plan. Here at Floyd Financial Group, our client relationships are at the core of everything we do. We cherish the relationships we've built with our clients over the past years, and we have earned their trust and confidence in our retirement process. Retirement should be more than about just money. It should be about the people and things that are most important to you. If you'd like to meet with us to discuss your life goals and financial opportunities, schedule a free financial review with no obligations. Our number is 417-889-7233. That's 417-889-7233, or visit us online at FloydFinancialGroup.com. That's FloydFinancialGroup.com.
Advisory services offered through Floyd Financial Group, LLC.
Back with your financial catch of the day, and it's a big one. Here's more Show Me the Money Radio with your host, Randy Floyd.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy and Jake. You're listening to Show Me the Money, and in this segment, or we're going to continue, I guess, the last segment with one of the common mistakes, which is not understanding the different types of retirement accounts and just accounts in general in your investments.
That's right. These are retirement mistakes to avoid at all costs. And the last one we talk about is using retirement money to pay for your kids' college education, and guilty as charged right here. But as you said, Randy, the next one is not understanding the different types of retirement accounts. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so, if you were to really sit down and look at all the different types of retirement accounts that are out there, the first thing we have to talk about, and we generally lump these things together, we talk about qualified accounts, right? So qualified accounts generally really are more linked to employers in their purest form. So if you think of a 401k, a 401a, a 403b, a 457, an SEP, which is a simplified employee pension plan, a solo 401k, these are all qualified plans and operate pretty much under ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. And then we have the other side of that, which is the Roth IRA, the traditional IRA, and you can actually have a Roth 401k as well as a Roth 457 and all those sorts of things. But we're going to boil it down to three basic types of accounts that you can have in retirement. Number one is the one that you'll probably hold jointly with your spouse, and that's what we call sometimes a TOD account or a transfer on death account. And it's just basically, many times it can be a brokerage account, it can be a managed money account, but it is money that you've actually, maybe you deposited $5,000 or $10,000 into it and you've grown it the last 20 years. And so maybe you put in $10,000, that's your basis, and then any growth is what's taxable, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the basic type of account that we can have. And for some people, or for a lot of people, they're going to have some money there, but not a lot. Today, what we see coming in the door mainly here is probably 75 to 80% of the money we see coming in is going to be either in a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or a Roth or traditional 401k is what we see coming in the door. So knowing which type of account to invest money in, sometimes people say, well, shouldn't I do a Roth or should I do the traditional? And so as we look through and figure this out, we have to look at incomes today, what you're having, and what you think you're going to have in retirement, and kind of weigh those two factors out. And it may be such a thing as that, it's not one or the other, but a blending of the Roth IRA versus the traditional. So let's talk about the difference again. So for those that maybe don't know, the Roth IRA, once I deposit money in there and I've held that account open for 5 years, anything that I pull out of there comes out of there tax-free. Now, the Roth, when you set up the Roth IRA, you are putting that money in with after-tax money. In other words, you don't get any current tax break like you would with a traditional IRA, where if you put that money in this year, you're going to take that off of your taxable income next year. So the Roth is different. You get the benefit on the back end when you're in retirement, tax-free withdrawals. And on the traditional IRA, you get tax benefit today, but everything's taxable later. So you can kind of see, Jeff, the balancing act that we have to do, depending on what your income is today versus what we think it'll be in retirement, really will help us to gauge and figure out how much money needs to go where.
And there's also something called a TSP, a thrift savings plan. Now, that's just for military personnel and uniformed people. Does that apply to just military? Or when I think of uniforms, I think of police and firefighters.
Yeah, and it goes beyond that, though, too. To federal workers or under the FERS system will have TSP accounts as well. So, but yeah, it's mainly, think of it just mainly as government employees. And when you think of it as government employees, we're talking about federal government employees, not state and local. Because like here in Missouri, we have Mosers, we have loggers, and a lot of that for the local governments.
So not understanding different types of retirement accounts, that is a retirement mistake that we do not want you to make. Next one is not planning for what you'll actually do during retirement. We talked about what you're going to be. Let's talk about what you'll do during retirement.
Yeah, many times we have this question. So, hey, how much money do I need to have to spend in retirement? And I should say it this way. Generally, I'm asking that question more than the people sitting in front of me.
Yeah.
And that is, so what do you plan to do in retirement? What does that look like for you? And, then we talk about budgeting, because most people haven't budgeted in a long time. If you're near retirement, you're probably making more money than you've ever made. Your family is raised. Maybe your house is paid off. So you really haven't needed to budget because money just keeps stacking up in your accounts, right? And you have all kinds of excess capital. Well, I don't know if there is such a thing as excess capital, but
I want some excess capital.
Yeah.
But anyway, you have more money than you've ever had.
Count me in.
And so they don't have a budget. So we talk about what's the bare bones budget to keep your family fed, the wolf from the door, and keep the insurance on the house and lights on and all that. And then how much do you want for play money? So that's where we get into, do you want to travel, play golf? Do you want to volunteer? Do you want to do mission trips? Do you want to, what is it that you want to do, so that we can actually figure out what the budget is going to be. And two things I will say. Planning for this will help give your retirement more meaning, but also it will help you to plan for the expense that you might not have thought of. And a lot of people say, well, how much do I need? Do I need 70% of what I was making when I was working, 80%? I got to tell you, for most people today, they want 100% of what they were making when they were earning.
Oh, yeah. Who wants to take a cut?
Working.
Well, as you said, what you do in retirement really will affect the income that you need. If you want to just, get in the old pickup truck that you've had for 20 years and fish off the bank, that's one thing. But traveling the country in a motorhome is yet another. So budget for that. Not planning for what you'll actually do in retirement, a big retirement mistake. Next one is a big, big no-no, and that is trying to time the market.
Yeah, when it comes to trying to time the market, nobody knows where the bottom of the curve is, I think of it this way, generally the market goes down and it kind of makes a U shape at the bottom. Now, many times it's a check mark, that V as in Victor shape recovery they talk about sometimes, but most time it makes a smiley face. And so where is the bottom? Where's the smiley face starting from the left headed to the right? Where is that bottom, and where do you find that? And that's something that's very difficult to do. So as we build portfolios here, rather than trying to time the market, now, we're going to see certain indicators and things that are going to lead us to believe that markets are headed a certain direction, based on just data and the effect that data has on markets. But also we're going to build plans that have already built in through mathematical planning that's going to keep us out of harm's way even during those big downturns. And we're going to be ready to capture the upside without having to guess.
I also think, too, Randy, that a lot of this depends on where you're at in your retirement journey. If you're close to retirement, I agree with all that. If you're 20 years from retirement, if you're 35, 40, listening to this show, you should not be concerned with any of that. And what you should be doing is stacking money in that 401k as fast as humanly possible. Make sure that you're getting your match, and that's one of the things we talked about here is free money's free money. But make sure that you're continuing to invest in that. As the market goes down, you're going to just be buying more shares of the same companies for the same money. And so when it comes back, you'll have that much more money. So again, a lot of this is situational based on where you're at in your retirement journey.
We're talking about retirement mistakes to avoid at all costs with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group. Next one is forgetting to assign account beneficiaries.
Yeah, that's a big one, Jeff. I mean, so, for most people, they have done that. But I will tell you that it is a huge problem for those that don't do it. And the other thing is, I always tell people, we like to check these things from time to time just to be sure that nothing has changed. Because, maybe if you haven't done a trust where you have a document that where your money pours into that has all the contingency plans built in, that's one of the big reasons people would want to have a trust is if people die out of order and things don't happen quite the way you thought, we have contingency plans built into those trust documents. But forgetting to do this puts you in the situation where you're going to have to go through a probate proceeding. And let me tell you, it's been said that probate is like filing a lawsuit against your kids.
Yeah.
Now, how many want to do that, right?
No.
Not very many. But that's exactly right, because in the state of Missouri, probate, if it's over $40,000, which puts you into a full-blown probate rather than a small claims situation, it's going to take 8 months to get it done, best you can do. Mm-hmm. And assets are frozen. It's a crazy time, and I will tell you that there are not that many attorneys that like to even do probate anymore. And so getting in to see somebody after someone has passed away may take weeks, maybe even a month or more before you can get in to sit down and see someone. So always, always, always assign beneficiaries, and it's just so important. And check them from time to time. And one of the big things that happens sometimes is as people age, somebody will die, and that person doesn't think to change out that beneficiary, and sometimes that's how things end up going to probate as well.
Our next retirement mistake to avoid at all costs, Randy and Jake, is not understanding what I think is the eighth wonder of the world, and that is the power of compound interest.
Yeah, I think Einstein said that, right? It's the eighth wonder of the world.
I believe he did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is right. And, right now, more than ever, people should talk to us about, some of the fixed instruments that now can make sense again with this rising interest rate environment. Fixed instruments that can help you actually compound your money and not have to worry so much about looking over your shoulder about the market risk that's out there right now.
And the final one that we'll talk about here on retirement mistakes to avoid at all costs is going to be running from a job instead of running towards something new.
Yeah, we talk about that on here. I think you say that we've said this kind of many, many times, and that is, let's retire to something, not just from something, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's one of those things where, like I said with my brother-in-law, he hadn't really, thought about what he was going to do, and so it left him a pretty empty time trying to figure out what he wanted to do when he went to retirement. So let's explore that. Let's figure out what makes sense and what's going to be good for you and what it is that you like to do. And I have to tell you, I think about this myself as I'm getting closer to that day. What is my day going to look like? What am I going to do? And I've kind of gotten things mapped out in my mind. So really, I'm kind of getting excited about the prospects that one day I'll get up and be able to drink coffee and not have to go run to the shower to get ready to come to work and shave my face, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? You may see me on the street. I might be unrecognizable.
Well, one thing I know about you, Randy, I think if there's anything that you're going to do in retirement, I already know what it is. You are going to run, but you're also going to swim, and you're going to bike, and you're going to mountain bike. You're going to be a very active guy, and it doesn't matter what you look like. You're a good, solid person. You're going to live a long, long time. You're an example for us all. So whether it be more social and family time, a casual hobby, community involvement, or a new semi-professional adventure, this can be a stage of life, retirement that is, filled with joy, growth, and excitement. We're talking with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group. If you would like a plan that would also involve what you're going to do in retirement to help you avoid these retirement mistakes, no cost, no obligation for that. Call 417-889-7233 to get your plan. Again, no cost, no obligation. Most importantly, no judgment. Nobody's going to sit there and go, wow, you've only got this, you've got that. No, Randy has said we will meet you where you are. We all put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time. Once again, 417-889-7233 is the number to call for your plan. You can also request it online at floydfinancialgroup.com. That's floydfinancialgroup.com. FloydFinancialGroup.com. Time for a break, gentlemen. We'll be right back with more of Show Me the Money right here on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk. Do you know who your financial advisor is really working for? It may not be you. Do you know if they're a fiduciary? Randy Floyd of Floyd Financial Group is a registered investment advisor, and his firm is proud to be fiduciaries, which means they're legally bound to serve you and your best interests above their own. Advisors working for retail banks are held to a suitability standard, meaning their first legal obligation is to protect the banks they work for, and maybe not you. At Floyd Financial Group, now more than ever, they're concerned about protecting your savings rather than taking more risk than you'd like to take in the stock market. At Floyd Financial Group, as fiduciaries, they're committed to your future and overall financial well-being, not to shareholders. If you're not sure who your financial advisor is working for, call Floyd Financial Group today at 417-889-7233 to schedule a no-obligation complimentary review of your financial plan. Find out more about the firm at FloydFinancialGroup.com. That's FloydFinancialGroup.com.
Ready to climb a mountain of financial know-how? Good. Because it's time for more Show Me the Money with your financial Sherpa, Randy Floyd.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy and Jake. You're listening to Show Me the Money, and in this final segment, we're going to be talking about, hey, what's the purpose of the money that you have saved over your lifetime? What are you really going to do with it?
That's right, Randy. A lot of people invest. They save their money, and they're saving it just to invest it. They're saving it just to save it, but they really don't know what they're saving it for. It's just sort of a very general goal. Randy, as you invest money, should you have a specific purpose for it?
Yes, Jeff, I think that there's basically three purposes that people really try to save and accumulate money for. Number one, for a lot of people, it's just to know that they can live out their retirement days and not depend on their kids for what they might need is one of the big things that we hear over and over and over. We just want to live out our days and not be a burden to our kids. Well, I don't know about you, Jeff. I'm planning to be a burden to Jake. I'm just kidding. It's been my life goal to be a burden to Jake.
So listen up, Jake and Miranda. Okay. Sorry.
But I think that's number one, is just to be able to live out their days and do it comfortably. Number two, I think we hear this all the time, is inheritance. They want to make sure that they leave a lot of money, and they view it as leaving security to their kids and trying to make it so their kids don't have to work as hard as maybe they did. Number three, and there's going to be four of these. Number three, I think the other one is people started saving because their folks were alive during the Great Depression and when things were hard to come by. So they save, and it's become such a habit that they can't stop. And that's not necessarily a derogatory thing. I'm just saying that's just what's happened to them. You know, even in retirement, they're saving money. So we say this: if you're taking it out of a retirement account and paying taxes on it to put it in the bank and save it, let's not do that. Let's leave it in the market and let it grow there. It's still saving, right? And then lastly, I think that there are a lot of people that want to do something greater than themselves and their family, and they want to leave money to church, to charity, things of that nature. And so when we look at sitting down and talk to people about, hey, what's the purpose of this money? One thing I will throw in there too is for some folks, they're saying, well, I think I want to buy a lake home once I retire.
Right.
So that's one thing that we need to know when we do retirement planning. Do you plan to make any big purchases of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 or something like that if you're buying a lake home or a motor home or something like that? So when we look at the purpose of money, that helps us to really understand more what the planning aspect needs to be and how we actually build a portfolio for each individual that comes in the door.
Randy, is there a different strategy for saving for something like healthcare expenses in retirement versus saving for what I'll call earthly immortality, and that's when you have a building named after you or a foundation? Do you use different tools and different strategies for two different things?
Yeah, I think, number one, there's always this overshadowing or this overlay that, where are we today economically? What's happening in the world? Because, you don't build a financial plan the same way when interest rates are zero as you do when inflation is 8% and interest rates are spiking, right? You have to approach those differently. But yeah, depending on what is happening and what those folks plan to do, when they plan to spend money, how much they plan to spend maybe early or how much they think they'll spend later, how much they want to leave to benefactors, to charity, whatever that may be, all of those things play a major role in how much money we leave really in cash, maybe where they can just reach it and access it. Because some people, I don't know if you watched this show or not. Recently, there was a TV show or an ad I saw where this person, maybe it was even on a YouTube video or something, where this person just kind of walks up to people and sits down, and maybe it's somebody on the street. He starts talking to them, and pretty soon he just gets up and he gives them $1,000.
Wow, yeah.
Just because. And so I thought, that might kind of be fun. I don't know if I could give $1,000, maybe only $10, but
give them a 10 spot.
There you go.
But, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of things that people can do with their retirement assets, a lot of things you can do to help people in the world. So whatever it is that couples or individuals that come in here that are getting ready to retire, whatever it is they want, is what we want to help them achieve and help them get.
And there was an old TV show, I think, Randy, that predates you and me. I've heard about it. I think it was called The Millionaire, in which that's exactly what the gentleman did. He would give away money like that. So if you have a charitable intent, that is one thing to invest for. There's a way for that. And then there are other methods if you're just going to, like you said, ensure that you have a roof over your head, keep the electricity on, food on the table, that sort of thing. We're talking with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group. We're talking about the purpose of money and the purpose of your investments. So let's shift gears and talk a little bit about how we do that. And of course, we talk all the time about having a plan. So let's get into that, why that plan is so important. I mean, if you go on a road trip, you want to have a plan and a roadmap as to how to get there. Really is the same way with investing for retirement, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's been said that people will spend more time planning a vacation than they will their life.
Right. Picking out a pair of shoes,
Right. And, there's some truth to that, because if you aren't careful, this can be a mundane task. However, I will tell you, I still find myself in here, and it's kind of funny, and people will even call me out on it sometimes, because I'll be looking at, their situation and their plan, and we'll be talking about the different options they have and all that sort of thing. And I still kind of get excited about it, and I start talking a little faster, and I get, a smile on my face, and they go, "You really like this stuff, don't you?" I said, "Well, yeah, I said it's a pretty good thing, and it's rewarding to see people get what they want and to help people, walk away from their job and really start to live life." And so, again, there's so many plans and so many different ways that we have to design plans and so many facets that come into it. And I've often thought maybe we should do some case studies over the radio. But the problem is, it's hard. It's kind of like trying to give you a haircut over the radio. You just can't quite get the job done.
Yeah.
It's just too hard to explain. But what I would do is just always encourage people, if you're thinking about retirement, if you haven't developed a plan, if you haven't thought about your retirement strategy, if you haven't thought about what it's going to look like. People say, "Well, I'm a long ways from retirement." Well, now is the time to start the plan, because the one thing that none of us can create any more of is time and money and compound interest, right? As Einstein said. Those are the things that make retirement and charitable giving and leaving your beneficiaries things. That's what makes all that possible.
And if you're 60 years of age, you're thinking, well, shoot, I'm going to work until I'm 70 years of age. Sometimes retirement can creep up on you for the most unexpected reasons. Maybe your body won't allow you to do it anymore if you're doing physical work, or maybe your mind won't allow you to do it anymore because, you just cannot figure things out, or maybe you have to care for somebody else. So that is where this plan comes in. And certainly we're offering that plan here at Floyd Financial Group. All you've got to do to get yours, call 417-889-7233. 417-889-7233. And as I've said many times here, there's no cost, there's no obligation. But Randy, also there's no judgment. I think a lot of people listening to the program say, well, I don't think I can come and see Randy and Jake because I just don't have enough money. And they're going to sit there and, they may not say it out loud, but they're going to be looking at my financials and go, wow, is this all you've got?
Well, that's not going to happen. I can tell you that for sure, Jeff. But it always, whenever we talk about this sort of thing, it always takes me back to the woman that sat in my office about a decade ago and said, "Oh, so we have to talk about scary money stuff," right? So, and yeah, at some point we have to talk about scary money stuff, but let's take the scary out of the scary money stuff. And let's also say this, while, I'm not the best looking guy on the planet, we're not that scary.
Well, you're downright handsome. I think you and Jake both. And Miranda's a beautiful girl, and so is Lisa. You got the
Well,
good...
you're misguided in my case, buddy.
You've got the good genes going for you there. But to boot, you're just really sincere, nice people who are interested in helping our listeners. And I think that is something that our listeners really need to understand, is that I think at Floyd Financial Group, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I know the answer to this, of course, is that when you see a client, you're not thinking, well, what's my commission going to be on this? What sort of fees am I going to make on this? You really want to help people, don't you?
So I'll tell you how we look at it. This is a process to get to an end result that the client wants.
Right.
And whatever tool and whatever we need to do to get that accomplished is what we will do. So if everybody wins, way back, there was a guy that said, if you're going to have a business that works, you have to have what's called the triple win. And he said the triple win is the client must win, you must win as the advisor, the link between the investment and the client, and the company must win. So when all three can win and everybody can benefit, then we have a long-lasting relationship. If it ever gets to where that's lopsided, something's going to come to an end.
Well, I know that you folks there at Floyd Financial Group, you have served a lot of people over the many years that you have been in business right here in Springfield. You've helped a lot of people get to and through retirement. They've gotten retired, they've stayed retired, and you've helped people build their wealth. Do you have room on your calendar for a couple of more here or not?
Yes, we do. Just give us a call over here at 417-889-7233. That's 417-889-7233. And most likely you'll get Ashley, and Ashley knows our calendar and can get you scheduled. But I will say this, whoever picks up the phone always has access to our calendar. I will say we stay a little bit busy. We're a little bit booked out, but we'll get you on the calendar and be happy to sit down and visit with you and get to know you.
So if you're looking for a retirement in which you not only survive, but a retirement in which you thrive, and a retirement that is going to fulfill your hopes, your dreams, your visions, call Floyd Financial Group. Get in. It all starts with a plan. To get your plan, again, 417-889-7233, as Randy said. Why don't you give it a call, first opportunity you have this coming week, 417-889-7233. Or while you're thinking about it today, if you would like to go on the website, floydfinancialgroup.com, and communicate with us and say, I'd like my no obligation, no cost, no judgment financial plan, you can do that. floydfinancialgroup.com. Well, gentlemen, we are out of time for this week. I want to thank you for your time, but most of all, I want to thank the fine people here of the last bastion of sanity, Springfield, Missouri, for joining us. For Randy and Jake, I'm Jeff Shade. Get out, have a great weekend, this great part of the country in which we live. We'll talk to you again with another edition of Show Me the Money right here on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk.